warmer. Call the 175th annual meeting of the Wisconsin Conference. First Congregational Church in Oshkosh to order. Vanessa just counted. We have something around 45 people in the sanctuary. Our quorum is 30, so we have a quorum for a meeting. Julie, can I invite you to an opening prayer for us?
Do you want to ring the... All right, I'm going to begin a prayer with the sound of the singing bowl. Take some breaths in. As you breathe in the presence of the Holy Spirit with us. And take a breath out and exhale anything that's heavy for you going into this meeting. We inhale the presence of the Spirit and we give gratitude, oh God, for your place in this church, for this congregation, for all the work and the volunteer hours that people put in to carry on the work of Christ. We ask for you to be in our hearts and in our minds as we do the work of the church. Help us to be guided by your word, your spirit, your call for us this day. This we pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
All right, the packet that most of you picked up in the hallway, there should be more back there if you need them. All of the reports of the congregation are in this packet. We're not going to go through all of them today, but I do hope you'll take time to read them. We asked every group in the church to write a report. And partially it's to capture this point in history, but more important, it's to inform the people of the church what it is we do and what the various groups are working on in the church. So we'll reference a couple of those reports, but I hope you'll take them home and read them. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from the 174th meeting of the congregation last year? So moved. Jean. Second is Pat Blades. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? If you're opposed, step right up here. All right, church membership report. I asked Vanessa if she had anything to say in addition to what's on page 5 in your report, and she said no, with the exception of there's one name in there that's incorrect. Sue Egger is not Susan, it's Sue. So we understand that. We'll get that corrected in the minutes. All right, membership celebrations and memorials. Vanessa, do you have anything to say about that? Or refer to page 5? Refer to page 5. We lost a number of people this year. Sadly, we lost Evelyn Bowerman, Dorothy Frone, a few weeks later, Jack Frone, Kristen Hartman, Ted Bowen, Lee Fennendall, and Carol Neendorf late in the year. Our blessings to their families, but also our sorrow in their passing. Generosity Stewardship Campaign, that's Mike Duffy. He's going to make a report about investments and about our stewardship campaign and about our budget, and then we'll go into the pastor's compensation.
Okay, good morning. Are you ready to talk about numbers? Can you put the slide? So let's just start with our investments. You know, this church has been very lucky to have the generosity of past members and generations. So up on the report, you can see here that we looked at the end of the last 3 years. The general fund is the money that's not designated for anything. That's just basically our savings account. The dedicated funds, most of that is from the permanent opportunity funds that came from one individual, and that's been broken up, and it's kind of kept as a long-term investment, and we take out money out of that at small amounts so that it'll last longer. It's basically being kept as an endowment. And you can see that in the general fund, we've gone up in the last year for over $100,000, and our total assets have gone up over $300,000. So we can be thankful to the performance of the stock market mostly. Our investments are all in a moderate risk fund, so there is some exposure to the stock market. It's not just a savings account or a low interest account, so we can grow a little bit. But it gets managed conservatively by the Finance Committee. So that's really good news still. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, the not so good news is the last year's generosity campaign. You can see that as of now, we've had 70 pledges this year compared to 80 last year. And the total amount pledged is down significantly, down to only $193,000 compared to last year that it was $223,000. Now, we have lost some members that have moved or their personal circumstances have changed and they can't pledge. We're hoping that nobody's pledge was lost. You know, we did have some turnover in the office administration position. You should be getting a thank you note. Those of you that were generously pledged, you should be getting a thank you note. If you think you pledged and didn't get a thank you note, please come and get a new pledge card. You know, and I think you should have even got a statement for most people that had a statement for their pledge. So I have more cards if there are individuals who are attending today and usually pledge and just forgot to pledge. It's not too late. You can pledge for next year. So that's a little discouraging. And we can still be hopeful. Would you go to the next slide, please? So there's a little smaller print here. Here's some more good news is you can see last year we actually had more money given as pledges than we had pledges. So people, there's always a few people or some people that can't satisfy their pledge, but we actually had more money pledged. And there were some late pledges that came in. You know, like in January, we had some pledges that came in after the budget was put together. But we have to pick a time to get that budget together so we can get it all out to you before today. And you can also, so you can see that we had $227,000 or $228,000 of pledge contributions last year, which was more than what we budgeted for. We also had significant other contributions. So these are people that didn't want to pledge but still gave, maybe new members or people that just don't pledge. And we had a very good year in terms of general income. So if you look at our total contributions for the year, we were almost, well, was it $55,000 more in contributions than we had pledged. So that really made last year, so this is really good news with how we did financially last year. Normally what we do when we put the budget together is, because this would be doing this for over 10 years, years ago we used to have some wealthy members that would come in at the end of the year and balance the budget. Well, those people are gone. So for years now we've been having to pay for part of our budget with our investments. We have to use some of our savings accounts to pay for the deficit. And what we've done in the past is we've budgeted 4% of the general fund and then 4% of parts of the permanent opportunity fund. So you can see last year we expected to take $44,000 out of investments, and we only took $20,000 or $30,000 out instead. So we actually took less out because it was such a good year for income. Now the problem is, as we put this year's budget together, we have the lowered pledges. We hope that we'll still get very generous other contributions for those people that didn't pledge and are giving. But we're now budgeting a greater amount of money for the investments. Part of that is because for the first time this year, we have a fund that has about $250,000 in it that's for the building itself, so expenses for maintenance for the building. And the last couple of years, we've been using that to spend, to pay off the new boiler. That was an unexpected expense a couple of years ago. So this year, we don't have the boiler. That's been paid for. So we're hoping that, the 4% investments we budgeted, that we can hopefully do that without hurting our long-term standing with our investments. So we're budgeting to take out $58,000. But if you look at the bottom, in addition to that $48,000, we're still $46,000 behind on between what has been pledged, what we're hoping to get, and what we have in expenses. Expenses modestly went up next year. We are giving the employees a 4% raise. There's significant inflation, and the employees deserve to be rewarded for the hard work that they do. So expenses are going up, and in this church, that is our number one expense, is personnel. Want to go to the next slide then? So this is just kind of a summary then of what we've had to spend to cover our deficit spending and what we're budgeting. So you can see for next year we're budgeting as high as $105,000 that we might have to take out, which is 30% of the budget is coming out of our investment. So that's if you were in your own household, if your income, if you had to pay 30% of your bills from your savings account instead of from your income. And you can see over the years, last year was a wonderful year. We spent a lot less than we expected. But over the last 5 or 6 years that I wrote down here, we've usually spent anywhere from $30,000 to almost $100,000 to cover the deficit. So unless we do get some more pledges or just are very some generous non-pledge giving, we could be spending as much as $105,000. Now, Finance Committee and the Church Council did not want to start making cuts. We do have a savings account. We think our staff is all valuable. We want to be moving into the future with a very active staff and getting the work done, the ministries done that we want to get done. So we did not make any serious cuts. So the budgeting is based on a lot of optimism. So right now that's how it stands. I do have more pledge cards if anybody has the interest for a pledge card. And really, don't be embarrassed if you forgot to get your pledge in. We got a couple of late pledges already this month after the budget was put, we kind of had to tack those onto the budget at the last minute. So if you forgot to pledge, if you changed your mind, you do want to pledge, I've got them. They'll be in the office too. So that's where we stand. We have money in the bank. We have money coming in, not as much as we'd like. We have a lot of generous people in the congregation, but we could always stand to have more. So if there's are there any questions about the budget? Okay, sure, Jeff.
Thank you, Mike. The way our organization is structured, the council actually adopts the budget for the year. So the congregation, this is information for the congregation. But oddly, we as a congregation need to approve the pastor's compensation package, which always makes me wonder what happened that somebody put it in the bylaws, we have to approve the pastor's compensation, but not the entire budget. So I'm going to excuse Julie for just a minute, and we'll talk about her compensation, and then we'll bring you back and happily, I don't know what I'm going to say after that. I don't know. No secret, she's going to find out, but I think the point of inviting the pastor to step out is if there are any questions about it, that you can be free to ask those. Her husband will close his ears, and you're free to ask questions should you need to. So next slide, please. There we go. Type is a little bit smaller on this one. If you look at the 2025 column, if you look at base compensation, that's the number that we actually approve. The way the IRS works for pastors is they're considered independent contractors. They pay their own FICA, Medicare. We don't pay a portion of that. But they also, they're allowed to claim their home as a business expense. Their utilities, their home, repairs and maintenance on the home. So what we need to do is approve the base compensation for next year of $81,120. And then at Julie's request, it's the pastor who chooses how much of that is used for housing allowance. So it's not our decision, but the IRS says we need to vote on it. So this, like everything else, is a 4% increase, like Mike just said, for all of the staff. The Social Security offset is most of us work for employers that pay 7.65% of our salary towards Social Security, and we also get 7.65 taken out of our checks. As an independent contractor, Julie has to pay all 14.8% or whatever that is. So the 7.65 is to help offset the amount that she pays because she's an independent contractor. Pension is 14% of her base, so 14% of the 81,000. And life and disability insurance. In Julie's case, Dustin carries the insurance. So what we offered her when we called her a little over a year ago is an incentive of $3,500 to acknowledge the fact that they're carrying it and perhaps pay some of their co-pays and deductibles. So there it is, $103,539,000 for next year for Julie, up from $99,557. Are there questions about Julie's compensation or comments? And if you want to say anything, Jean's going to run around with the microphone. Gina or CB? No questions at all? That's either really good or not. All right, we'll take a motion to approve the pastor's compensation. Thank you. A second? That was Thatcher and Gary. This is Thatcher and Gary. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, the second motion to go with this is at Julie's request to approve or to designate $24,000 of her $81,120 as housing allowance, and that needs to be recorded in the minutes for the IRS. So would you have a motion for that? Who was that? Gary? A second? And Maria? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? See, Julie didn't need to step out. You can invite her back in if you would. 24,000. All right. Before we do nominations, Cynthia's got a report on nominations. I was going to invite people to stand up if you're on a committee or if you're on a ministry council, or if you, and I realized when you start inviting people to stand up, you leave a lot of people out. And what we don't recognize in this church, besides the people we nominate, are the people that come in and water the plants, and the people that come in and count the offering, and the people that do the child care, and the people that do day-by-day shelter meals, and so many people that make this church work. And so even as we talk about the need for more volunteers, I do want to acknowledge that this church runs on volunteers, and if we started counting, I take care of the network in this church, and before Julie was here, the church was empty on Fridays. So I could shut the entire network down and fix anything I wanted to. And I was amazed how many people were in here doing things on Friday afternoons that nobody knew about. So at the same time, we're going to talk to you about who's nominating and the need for more people on these groups and ministry groups. I want to acknowledge and thank all the people that do things both seen and unseen in the life of the church. So Cynthia, do you want to? No, oh yeah, this is all yours.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone for all the volunteer hours they do throughout our church community. It's not just what's written on here, as Jeff just spoken to, that's everything else behind the scenes. So Amy and I worked on nomination this year, and as we know, throughout our community and in various aspects of life, volunteerism has been at a lower point than we've seen in the past. So what you have in front of you is the list of people that we reached out to and we contacted and asked, and people have a lot of good reasons and are unable to serve. I just want to point out before we approve this list that where you see the ... which means our ministry groups, with the exception church council has 7 at-large members, and we have 4 openings. The good news is church officers are all continuing, and Amy Smith stepped up. She was on the church council this last year, and she is the moderator-elect. The ministry groups are all comprised of 6 members. And we, a few years ago, updated our bylaws, and we did institute term limits. So we do ask people who reach a 6-year limit that they take a break, maybe serve somewhere else, and they can always come back if there's an opening on a committee that they're really in love with and want to serve on. So we have openings, and we will vote on the ones that are listed here. However, to fill these openings in the year, if people's calendars changes, if their time and commitments change, and anyone wishes to serve on one of these committees, they should reach out to the church council and get information on the committees, and we can add throughout the year. Even though there's some holes in here, I'm totally confident that these committees will be successful and keep the activities of each of these groups going in a strong manner. I just want to, before we take a vote and approve that list, I have to remind people that on the back of that page are our mission ministries, and these are probably the groups that most people enjoy serving on. It's where we are recognized throughout our community for our good works. So we have some of the ministry groups listed, and if we fail to get everybody's name on there, apologies to anybody that was left out, because we want to make sure everyone is recognized. And remember, the mission groups can always, you can serve on them forever and ever. You can have as many people as you like, so it's extreme participation is encouraged. So you can see we have lots of people doing their work. So I would call at this time. You want to call for the motion? Yes.
Just microphone right there.
Fantastic. First of all, just let me say that I love Liz Caprillion. And I am asking, is it the hope that Liz is no longer employed by our church, that she is also on the church council? Because isn't it usually that staff members are not church council?
Yes, we interviewed someone last week for that position. Aspen left suddenly at the end of the year. And we've interviewed someone for that position and expect to have 2 second interviews this week. So Liz's position is temporary, but with our gratitude that she was willing to step in and do that.
Okay. You want to?
Yeah.
Amazing, thank you.
Sure. And we hope the news, like in a week and a half, is going to even be more amazing. So we're looking for a motion to accept the nominating report on the front of the page. The front page is the coordinating ministry groups, which are the 7 groups that are limited to 6-year terms that we elect. The back of the page, as Cynthia said, are people that have this interest, and you recruit your own people, and they can stay as long as they'd like on those coordinating ministry mission ministry groups. So we're taking a motion for the coordinating ministry groups. So moved by Thatcher. A second? Second is Joyce. All in favor, say aye. We also need a motion to elect the officers as listed on the front page. Motion. Thatcher's right on it. He wants to go home. Any second? Oh, and Maria would like to go home too. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And if you are, step right up. All right. I have a couple of other things here. The reports that are before you are really meant to capture the highlights of the groups and what they've been doing this year, but all of our meetings, with the exception of at times personnel perhaps, are open to people to step in and see what groups are doing and hopefully become involved in those groups. But hopefully you'll read these reports, because people put energy and care into these to inform the congregation what it is we do. So in terms of transparency, not only do we hope you'll read the report, but should you want to, you're always welcome to a meeting, to enjoy a meeting or join a meeting. A commercial here, Empty Bowls. Empty Bowls started in this congregation, and we are still very much involved in making that happen in this community. Their biannual event is at the Howard on January 31st from 4 to 6 p.m. You can register online, and there's a QR code in your bulletin if you know how to do that. If not, send me an email. I'll send you a link how to do that. The tickets are all online this year. I do want to say one. Is it $16? If you don't want a bowl, I think it's $16, and is it $30 if you do want a take-home bowl? People have handmade bowls for this event, and it's all a fundraiser. So taking a bowl home is really a gift to the community in terms of feeding those who are underfed. So I think it's $16 and $32 or $16 and $30 or something like that for an adult. All right. I have one more thing to say. Julie opened herself up today when she asked the kids, what does the pastor do? And I was waiting for some pretty funny answers, because most of us do not fully understand what it is the pastor does. And we did approve your salary, by the way, in your compensation package. But most of us, because most of us aren't having a baby baptized or on our deathbed or in crisis or in divorce or at service or Wednesday nights, we don't see all of the things that she does. But I also want to note that when we walked in the church today, is Jean still here? When we walked in the church today, it was 60 degrees. And it's one of those times that you notice something didn't work right because it's so unusual, because most of the time things work so well in this church. And this is a shout out to all of our staff. This year I've gotten to work with almost all the staff with Joanne's event and all the things that we did. I think I worked with all of the staff. And we are gifted and blessed to have them here with us. And for the things that don't quite work perfectly, like the heat this morning, it's an extremely cold day outside. And Gene was on top of it. I said, Gene, he said, I know, I've already called them. So we're blessed to have those, oh, there he is. We're blessed to have those people here that take care of this church and do the ministry with us and on our behalf. So I just want to say thank you to Jean and Olivia, who you almost never see, who's in the office, and then the other Olivia, who's in childcare, and Spencer, who you usually don't see, but he's over there, and Liz, who steps in when we need her with our gratitude, and Julie, and Jean, and who did I miss? And Bridget. Oh, and Bridget. And Bridget, who you see every Sunday, who's here. So my thanks to all of you, and I hope we extend that appreciation to all of you. I have one thing to bring up. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, somebody emailed me after the service and said somebody in the narthex asked them for money for lunch. And this person said, I didn't know what to say. I was caught off guard. And what kind of Christian am I if I sit inside and say the prayers for the people and the homeless and those who don't have enough food, and I don't do anything about it? Those who work with the homeless would also say you need to be careful and strategic about how you give money and how you support the needs of people in our community, that just handing $10 bills out at the front door doesn't really solve the problem. What we're looking to do is Church Council would like to put a committee together to talk more about this and to strategize about how we can be meaningfully helpful in this community for the homeless and the other underfed population. We were instrumental in getting the Hope Fridge back. We are instrumental in filling that thing. The Pastor Chris over there says if there's not somebody there every 5 or 10 minutes, he'd be shocked. It is heavily, heavily used, and the need is great in this community. What I'm asking for is if you've had an experience where someone has come to you and said, I need this or I need that, or at church or after church or because you're a member of the church, we'd like to hear that because we'd like to take that into consideration as we figure out how do we respond both verbally to someone who asks, but also how do we respond meaningfully to someone that asks and the needs of this community. So if you have any thoughts about that, please talk to me, talk to Julie. We'd love to hear that before we put that committee together. Is there anything else for this meeting? Hopefully your furnaces at home are all working and you can go home and warm up, and I thank you all for the day. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Thatcher, he's still going to get out here, and Darcy. All in favor? Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. Thank you. Get everything?